Hey everyone, in today's video we're going to learn how to make a little girl. So I've got some saracino modelling paste and I've just coloured this in, it's the skin toned version, and I've just added a little bit of chestnut to it to make it a little bit darker. And I'm just going to roll a sausage shape and we're going to trim the end off, the thinner end, and that's going to be the sole of our foot. And we're going to press the finger in just above that and we're going to create the ankle. And we're going to put these to one side and cut them to about the same length. After that we're going to work on the body, so I've just got another bit of my modelling paste and we're going to roll it quite into the sort of like a chunky sausage shape, and we're just going to pop this and we're going to attach the legs either side. Now you can see there that I've just nipped the end a little bit and I'm creating a bit for the neck, and then we're just going to push in either side for the shoulders. It's a bit like a bottle shape that we're trying to create. Now because this is such a young girl, I'm not going to do any sort of like chest area or anything like that. It's quite a simple shape. We're just going to push some bits in either side just to create the shoulders, and then I'm just putting a cocktail stick through the middle, leaving a bit out of the top, which is going to enable us to stick the head on later on. We just want to check the size of the body against the legs. Obviously we don't want something too small, so just pop the legs either side, and again if you need to trim anything off the legs just do that at this point, and then we're just going to attach those together. Next we're going to do the top for the little girl. So she's wearing a white dress in this one, but again you can do any kind of colour that you want, and we're just rolling out a rectangular shape and we're just going to stick that on, trimming off any excess at the back. We will just use one of our, I like to use piping nozzles just to cut out the armpit area, because you don't want to see the white dress underneath the armpit when we put the arms on. And then next we're going to work on the base of the dress. So for this I've just got one of my cookie cutters, and I'm just going to cut out a couple of shapes, and we're going to use a cocktail stick just to frill the edges. This is going to stop the dress lying so flat. It's going to give it quite a nice effect as well. And we'll take out the middle of those so we've got something to wrap around the little girl, and then just cut a line in the back, and that's going to make it easier for us to attach it when we put it on. So you want to put your first layer on, and it doesn't matter if you can still see a little bit of the belly or anything like that, because we will put a little belt around there. And we're just going to trim off any excess, and at this point you can put it into position as to where you want it to lift, and then just pop the other layer on top, and again just trim off any excess that there is, using a little bit of water just to stick it on. You don't need a lot of water with the saracino modelling paste. And then I'm just going to put another layer on just to make it look a bit fuller, just using the same method as before, just frilling the edges with a cocktail stick. So we're just going to stick the next layer of the dress on, again just with a little bit of water, using the modelling tool just to push it into place. Again, this is the point where you need to lift up your pieces of the skirt so you get it in the position that you want. Next we're just going to do some toes. So again the same skin colour that we used before, and we're just going to roll some tiny balls, and these are what we're going to stick on the feet. Now obviously with the toes you want to get smaller as you go along, and we're just going to use a little bit of water just to stick these on both feet. So after we've stuck the toes on, we're then going to create the arms. So it's similar to the way that we did the legs. We're going to roll a sausage shape and trim off one end. The arms that I'm going to do are quite simple, so we're literally just taking a tiny little triangle shape out for the thumb and putting a crease in where the fold of the arm is, and then that's going to be our arm, just using a little bit of water to stick it on. The next arm we're going to do in the same way, so we're going to take that little triangle shape out and trim off any excess, and again we're going to put the crease in the elbow. With this arm I've put it at a right angle because I've actually put her holding an ice cream cone. So once you're happy with the shape of the arm, we're going to stick that on with a tiny little bit of water, and I've used a cocktail stick just to push it in position to keep it at a right angle. The saracino does firm up quite quickly, so it shouldn't take too long for that to hold its shape. We don't have to worry about the shapes of the arms joining because we're going to have a dress that covers that. So for the cone, I've just rolled a little sausage shape and I've just marked it with my scriber tool, and then we're just going to wrap the hand around the cone and stick that back into place, propping it up with your cocktail stick until that one dries. So now I've taken some of the white saracino and I'm just going to cut out some thin strips, and these are going to be the arms or the shoulder straps for the dress that we've put on the little girl. So we're just going to cut one side straight, and I'm going to crisscross these over the back. So we're going to attach that on and pull it round to the other side and trim off any excess, and then we're going to do the same for the other one. Again, just using a little bit of water or edible glue just to stick that on. Next we're going to work on the face. So I've just taken a ball of fondant. I'm going to mark it in across the middle, and that's going to be where the eyes sit. Now we're looking to make a T shape in the face, so I've created a mark where the nose is going to be, and I'm just using my fingers to smooth out this area. We're going to push and nip now, so with the finger push up and the other two fingers we're going to sort of pinch together a little bit, and this is going to create our nose area. And we're just going to smooth in everything to keep it nice and soft and just roll up on the brow area. 2 holes for the nostrils, and they do look a bit strange at this point. We're going to create the line for the mouth, so just using the scalpel tool and pulling it across. We're going to lift that top lip up and then just use our finger just to push it up, and this is going to create the top lip. We're going to smooth that out with our tool to bring it in a little bit at the bottom, and a tiny little balling tool just to create the dip in the middle. After we've done that, we're just going to mark in the bits around the nose. So we just want to pull in those nostril areas and make sure that that line is separate to the mouth. Smoothing it again with your Dresden tool and using your finger. If you've got smaller fingers than me, then you'll be able to get in a little bit easier. Next we're going to take a balling tool and we're just going to create some of the eye sockets and work on pushing in the bridge of the nose. So you can see I'm just pushing it in and then smoothing it out a little bit. I'm going to create the bottom lip, so just dint either side and then just roll your, I use a paintbrush, just roll that up and then soften the edges with the Dresden tool. Now this little girl's got her mouth open, so I'm just pulling the bottom lip down, and then we're going to put some teeth in there, so she's smiling. So we're just using the Dresden tool to soften what's inside and soften the top lip, and then we're going to mark the areas where the eyes are going to be. I always find it best just to mark this in, and then I can use my tool to kind of just mark out the area where I want my eye to make sure that I've got the shape that I need. So once you're happy with the rough outline that you've created, we're then going to take off some of the excess for the face. So I tend to always roll slightly bigger than what I need, but we need to create the chin and the jawline, which in children is quite soft, so you want to keep the shape quite rounded. Mark it in with the back of a brush and then just pull down with your fingers and thumbs, and you're going to create a kind of a neck shape. Now we're going to chop this neck off because we've got our neck already on the figure. We're going to leave that to dry slightly, and we're going to cut out the eyes that we've made. So just using your tool just to pull those out and then smoothing it back in with the Dresden tool. It doesn't need to be too deep, it's just got to be deep enough to fit a little sort of like a rice grain of white fondant so that we've got some eyes. Just softening up the lip area, and again smooth any lines out that you've got. Once you have finished smoothing the eye socket, we're then going to trim the base off the neck, and we're just going to soften over that area. So pulling the lip down again if you need to, and then we're going to put the whites in the eyes. So again, I've just taken some of the saracino that I've got, and we're going to put in sort of like a flat rice grain, and we're just going to pop that in the eye socket and using the Dresden tool just to pull it down into the corners. and smoothing it over. So you can see I'm using a mixture between the tool and my thumb just to smooth over the edges. And then we're going to create the bit of the eye at the bottom and a line on the top, which would create the eyelid. So I'm putting that in and then I'm just softening over the line. So I will put a link in the description box to all the tools that I've used. You can do all this with a Dresden tool if you wanted to. The Cerat brushes and tools just make it a little bit easier. So again, just pushing it up to create the eyelid at the bottom and smoothing over that area and then creating a line for the eyelid at the top. Now again, we don't want too much definition on this one because it is just a little girl. I think this was done for a first birthday cake. So once you've got your eyes into position, we're then just going to pop on a little bit of blusher. I'm just using one of the pink dusts that I've got and just brushing it on the cheeks, chin and a little bit on the forehead. And then I've got some light blue fondant and we're just going to put this in the eye socket. Find this easier to do than painting it on. Painting it on takes quite a lot of skill, whereas these you can roll out your little dots and then just put them on and you can push it around into position. But if you make a mistake when painting, the only option is to take it all off and start again. Now I've got this one looking to the side because she's going to be sat next to a dinosaur. And we're going to create the teeth. So I've just got some really thin bits of the saracino and we're just going to cut some tiny little shapes, and these are what are going to form the teeth. I think the little girl had 5 teeth in total, so that's what I've done for the figure, I believe. And you just want to make sure that they are actually quite small because once you put them in the mouth they do look quite big. So just a little bit of water. I've got a bit of pink there for a tongue, and I'm just going to use the scriber tool to poke it down in the middle, and that's going to create the line in the tongue. And then we're just going to use the knife tool just to create some little holes, and that's what the teeth are going to sit in. So just a little bit of water to push those into place. I don't know if you can see it quite clearly because they were quite small. But just using my brush to push them into place and the needle tool just to push them back also. And then we're going to put the ones in on the top. It is quite a fiddly job and it does take quite a lot of practice. You could always opt to do the mouth closed if you didn't feel comfortable in doing this bit. So putting the last tooth in just at the side. So once you're happy with the position of the teeth, we're then going to work on just colouring in the eyes. So I've taken some turquoise colour in the Sugar Flare and I'm just painting on the outside of the eye. Once you've got the ring around the edge, we're then going to clean the brush and we're going to drag that into the centre. If it goes a little bit dark, you can just use a little bit of water just to take some of it off and lighten it up in areas. So usually the top of the eye is darker than the bottom. That's just the way the shadow falls from your eyelashes. So just again painting around the edge, and then we're going to pull that colour in to create a sort of two-toned effect for the eye. So we'll leave the eyes just to dry for a little while before we stick the blacks on, and we'll move on to painting the eyebrows. So the little girl is blonde, so I've just taken the chocolate colour and we're just going to create a line underneath the eye. So you can see that it's just really faint, and then we're going to draw that totally around the eye. Now obviously because she's a little girl we don't need to put any eyeliner or anything on, so we're just going to paint some really faint wispy bits just for the eyelashes. So if you need to take off any excess, just add a little bit of water to your brush, And then we're just going to paint on some eyebrows. Now these are quite a rough shape. They don't need to be anything too defined because again it is a child. And then we're just going to repeat that on the other side of the eye. So once we've done both eyes, we're then going to go back to doing the blacks in the eye. So again, taking some really tiny blacks of your fondant and just putting some tiny little circles, and we're just going to stick these on with a little bit of water. If you try it and it's too big, do not stick it on, just take it off and cut it in half, and then usually it will fit perfectly. Once the blacks of the eyes are in, we're then going to put the whites of the eyes in. So now you want even tiny little pieces of fondant, and that we're going to put on the eyes. Now they both need to be in the same position on each eye because it's the light reflection that we're doing right now. I always put these on any figures that I do because I think it just makes the figure come to life a little bit. So just using a paintbrush just to stick these on. You may need to press it down with your modelling tool. And they do need to be really, really thin because you don't want the eyes to be popping out too much. Now, once we've done this, we're going to stick it on the body just to make sure it's the right size. And then we're going to work on the hair. So I've just coloured some hair, I believe, in the honey gold quite lightly. And before we put the hair on, we're just going to do some ears. So we're going to roll some tiny little blobs of the fondant out, just into a circle. And we're going to use the back of our brush to put them on. So tiny little bit of water, and we're just going to push in a line, angling it towards the chin, and that's going to create the ears. And then we're going to make a cap for the hair. So this just needs to be a rough shape. The little girl's going to be wearing pigtails. So the cap we just push on. Now I do like to leave the face to dry, probably overnight before I do this, so I'm not pushing anything out of place. And we're just going to draw a line down the middle for the parting. Now for the hairlines, because we're going to put them in bunches, all of the hair needs to be dragged up to a single point in the head, and that's all the way around. So you can see everything that I'm doing, I'm pulling up to one point in the middle. And then we're going to do the same for the other side. Using the scriber tool to push the hair down onto the forehead, just so it looks a little bit more natural. And once we've done that, we're just going to attach this with a little bit of water on the cocktail stick until we are ready to do the bunches. So just blending in that area and redefining the parting. So a little bit of water on, and we're going to push the head into place, and then we're going to leave that to dry. So the pigtail shapes are quite easy to do. It's just sort of like a little sausage that's fatter at one side than the other, and using the scriber tool just to create the hair marks in there. You want it to be a little bit frayed at one side, and then we're just going to flatten the bottom and then just stick these on with a little bit of water. If you do have problems sticking these on and they have trouble holding into place, then all that you need to do is, if you take a cocktail stick and just take the very ends off and stick these into your head, and then that is going to give your bunches on the top something to actually hold on to while it's drying. You would need to obviously let them know that it has got cocktail sticks in, but that's what it should look like when you've got both stuck on. We're now going to create sort of like a fringy area for the front of the hair. So again, just rolling out a flat sausage and creating some lines with the scriber tool for the hair. Chopping that in half, and we're just going to stick that on one side, and then we're going to put the other side on. Rolling a thinner sausage shape now, and this is going to be for individual hair strands. That's just going to finish the face off. And you can see I'm just using a little bit of water to stick these on. Just pushing them into place and taking off any excess so that it's not disrupting the parting area that we've got. And then the little tiny hairs that we've got, we're just going to pop them around the ears. You can see there I'm just pushing it into place with the scriber tool that I've got. And then we're going to do the same for the other side. So next we're going to do the ice cream. So we've just taken a little ball of pink fondant and again cutting a little sausage. These are going to form the drips on the ice cream. So we're going to stick the drips on first, just with a little bit of water, and then we're going to stick the comb bit on next. So we're going to finish the ponytails off with some pink ribbon. So flat sausage shape, we're going to wrap around. Make sure there's a little bit of excess, because that's going to form the tails of the ribbon that's coming onto the hair. And then we're just going to take a little sausage shape and thin it out in the middle and flatten either side, and that's going to create the bow that we've got. And just a tiny little bit of fondant for the middle, just sticking that on with a little bit of water. Now these are quite fiddly, I've got quite big fingers, so I need the modelling tool just to tuck that in for me. And then we're going to stick that on to the bow. So it should look something like this. And then finally we're just going to do some tiny little pink flowers just to stick on the parts of the straps. So you should have something that looks like this. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. To see more of my tutorials, please click the links on the screen now. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with my future videos. Thanks for watching.